You were not born into lack. You were born into possibility, and yet, look around, most live in quiet desperation, bowing to the illusion that there's never enough, not enough money, not enough time, not enough talent, support, love, belief. But let's tell the truth, because your future depends on it. You don't suffer from lack. You suffer from fear, fear disguised in hesitation, fear disguised in logic, fear disguised in procrastination, in doubt, in maybe next year, in what if I fail. It has 1,000 faces, and you've shaken hands with all of them. But understand this, every resource you need is already here. We live in the most abundant era of human history, knowledge at your fingertips, tools within reach, connections a click away, and still millions freeze. Why? Because it's not lack of resources that binds you. It's lack of resourcefulness. It's not what you don't have. It's what you don't believe you can become. The prison is not made of walls. It's made of thoughts, and the warden is fear. It whispers in your mind like a friend while robbing you like a thief. It keeps you overthinking instead of executing, dreaming instead of building, regretting instead of becoming, and yet the bold, the few, have always known the secret, not the secret that gets whispered in boardrooms, not the one wrapped in marketing slogans. The real one, that success bows not to the best, but to the bold, to those who move in spite of fear, because faith is not the absence of fear, it is action taken in the face of it. Thomas Edison didn't wait until he was fearless. He failed 10,000 times, but he didn't suffer from lack. He refused to surrender to fear. When the world said, "You're crazy," he said, "I haven't failed. I've found 10,000 ways that don't work." And that one light bulb lit up not just a room, but the next 100 years of civilization. So the question is not, do you have what it takes? The question is, will you choose courage when fear comes dressed in facts? You've been trained to bow to fear, to play it safe, to seek approval. You've been taught to blend in when you were born to build empires. They conditioned you to avoid mistakes, so now you avoid yourself. You've traded your dream for comfort, your fire for routine, your calling for a checklist. But understand this, comfort zones are cages, and no one builds a legacy from within one. Do you think Henry Ford had guarantees when he bet his entire life on the assembly line? They mocked him. They said, if we asked the people what they wanted, they'd say faster horses. But Ford saw beyond fear. He saw vision, and vision always terrifies those who can't see past the present. It's not the risk that stops you. It's the stories you've told yourself. It's the lie that says, "I'm not ready." The lie that says, "I need more time, more knowledge, more permission." You don't need more. You need less fear, less self-doubt, less waiting for the world to validate what only you can authorize. You don't suffer from lack. You suffer from a lack of belief, and belief is the foundation of all achievement. As Hill wrote, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, not whatever the world permits, not whatever your parents approve, but what you believe with such intensity that the world has no choice but to bend. When Carnegie rose from nothing to become the wealthiest man of his time, he didn't do it by asking for permission. He didn't inherit confidence. He built it. He forged it in the fires of faith and boldness. He surrounded himself with belief, not excuse makers. And if you're still doubting, ask yourself this. Who told you that you were not enough? Whose voice still echoes when you hesitate? Who told you to fear your own power? Because make no mistake, fear is not inherited, it's taught, and just as it was taught, it can be unlearned. You were born with courage in your blood. Boldness is your birthright, but boldness is not loud. It is not recklessness. It is quiet certainty in the face of noise. It is building when others sleep. It is believing when others mock. It is choosing to act when every cell in your body screams wait. That is how empires are built. Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming the president who redefined freedom. These weren't lucky men and women. They were forged by fire. They were broken, then reborn in purpose. And you're not waiting for the right time. You're waiting for fear to vanish. But that day never comes, because greatness is born through fear, not in its absence. Fear is a liar, but it's also a master illusionist. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It tells you you're being rational, that you're just being realistic, that now isn't the time, that maybe next year, when the stars align, then it will be safe to go all in. But here's the truth they won't teach you in school. There is no perfect time. There is no sign from the heavens. The moment you decide, that's the moment the path begins to clear, not the other way around. We've been sold this lie that clarity comes first. No. Clarity comes through movement. You don't wait to feel confident before you step forward, and confidence meets you on the path. And if you think this is theory, look around. Look at every single person who ever moved history forward. They didn't begin with certainty. They began with decision. They began with vision. They began with a refusal to bow to fear. Nelson Mandela sat in a prison cell for 27 years not because he feared injustice, but because he refused to let fear dictate his life. He said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." And that man, who was once behind bars, became the symbol of a free nation. What's your excuse? What walls have you accepted as permanent that are really made of paper? The truth is your chains are not on your wrists. They are in your beliefs. You've believed the lie that says, "I can't." The lie that says, "It's too late." The lie that says, "What if I'm not good enough?" Let me ask you something. Who would you become if fear didn't exist? If there was no voice in your head that said, "Don't try," if there was no echo from your past telling you to play it safe, what would you build? Who would you serve? What legacy would you leave? Because make no mistake, you are here to build something. Something that only you can create, but fear. Fear has convinced you that surviving is enough, that existing is acceptable, that dreaming is for the foolish. It's not. It's for the few who refuse to let fear write the script of their life. And the ones who rise they're not always the smartest. They're not always the most talented, but they always carry one trait. They've made a decision that fear will not be their master, and that decision is worth more than 1,000 talents. It is the seed of destiny. It is the soul of revolution. Because once you decide, fully not halfway, not kind of but all in the world changes. When a man decides to burn the ships, retreat becomes impossible. And with no way back, the mind begins to see only the way forward. Burn the ships, burn the excuses, burn the story you've told yourself about why you're not ready. You don't need more time, you need more truth. You don't need more talent, you need more trust in the fire that lives inside you. Remember, everything you admire in others was built on a foundation of courage, and courage is forged in the presence of fear, not its absence. There is no greatness without risk. There is no victory without a war against doubt. There is no empire without discipline, pain, faith, and relentless action. You're not being held back by your circumstances. You're being held back by a conversation in your mind, that inner voice, that default programming that says, "Stay small, play safe, don't rock the boat." That voice isn't you, it's a recording. One that was installed over time, but you have the power to override it. You can speak louder. You can declare something different. Say this out loud right now, wherever you are. "I do not suffer from lack. I suffer from fear, and I choose to break it." Say it again. Feel the weight of that truth, because the moment you name the enemy, you reclaim your power. Fear wants you silent. Fear wants you passive. Fear wants you watching others live the life you were born to build. But not any more, not after today. You don't get to pretend you didn't hear this voice. You don't get to know the truth that's now burning in your chest. So make your move. Don't wait for certainty, build it. Don't wait for support, become your own support. Don't wait for the fear to leave walk anyway, because freedom does not come to the one who waits. It comes to the one who chooses. There is a reason fear feels so familiar. It's because it was baked into your upbringing. They didn't mean harm your parents, your teachers, your society. They just repeated what was given to them. Be careful. Play it safe. Don't aim too high. Don't ask for too much. Don't shine too brightly. You might blind someone, and so you became cautious with your gifts. You locked your potential in a basement and fed it scraps. You made your dreams wait in line behind your obligations. And all the while, fear sat at the head of the table, eating first, speaking loudest. But the soul was not made to be quiet. The heart was not built for moderation. Greatness does not bloom under caution. It requires pressure. It requires fire. It requires the kind of inner defiance that looks fear in the face and says, "You do not own me." Fear is always present when something matters, and that's the paradox. The bigger the dream, the louder the fear. So, if you're feeling afraid, good. That means you're standing at the edge of something real. It means the life you're meant to live is calling, and fear is doing everything it can to keep you from answering. But here's the secret the world's elite have always known. The edge is not where you fall, it's where you fly. It's where you shed the skin of who you were and step into who you were meant to be. No one builds a life worth living by standing in the middle. You must pick a side, comfort or courage, security or significance, the known or the possible, and make no mistake they will call you crazy. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll say, "Who do you think you are?" And you will smile. Because the answer is, exactly who I was born to be. Do you think Walt Disney was surrounded by applause when he bought swampland in Florida and said, "This will be a kingdom"? Do you think the Wright brothers felt supported when they said, "We're going to teach metal to fly"? They weren't applauded, they were laughed at, mocked, dismissed. But history is not written by the comfortable, it's written by the courageous, and courage is a decision, not a trait. You don't wait for it, you decide it. Right here, right now, you decide that your dreams are non-negotiable, that your potential is not up for debate, that fear is no longer your compass, and once you decide, everything begins to shift. Not because the world gets easier, but because you become stronger. Your energy changes, your focus sharpens, you begin to attract different challenges and different victories. You will feel resistance, that's the cost of transformation. You will lose people, that's the cost of alignment. You will face days where fear tries to crawl back into your mind and whisper, "Turn around." But you won't, because the moment you stepped onto this path, the path of power, of belief, of mastery, you buried the version of you who bows to fear. You don't suffer from lack, you never have. Everything you need already exists. It's buried under stories, under old programming, under fear dressed up as facts. But now you dig, now you decide. Now you move, because action is the antidote. Boldness is the medicine, and your future, the one that haunts you in your dreams, is aching for you to finally answer the call. So don't play small, don't shrink. Don't apologize for wanting more, because more is not greed, it's growth. It's the soul expanding. It's the heart daring to step into the fullness of its design. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not late. You are becoming, and becoming is messy. Becoming is painful. Becoming is terrifying. But so is staying the same. So is regret. So is wondering what might have happened if you had just tried. This is your moment, and it does not knock twice. The world is not waiting. Life is not a rehearsal. You don't get to come back and do this again. So rise now, not next year, not when it's easier now. Because the fire in you, it's not random, it's not fantasy, it's a map, it's a compass, it's the voice of the divine inside you, screaming to be unleashed, and you've stayed in fear long enough.